The exit slips had to be planned to reflect the sort of fact that they were being exited because they'd not lived up to one of their responsibilities, or they'd been in breach of somebody else's rights. They'd affected somebody else's learning. And then the other thing that group had to do was that thing that I was talking about pulling back from their taking on the discipline problems of other people. But there was that very, very fine line of never sort of pulling back so much that teachers felt unsupported. You know, the assistant principal and the level coordinators would still talk to people. They were happy to be present at those meetings as a sort of silent observer if need be, so that people didn't feel like they'd just sort of it had been dumped on them. That group's now rewriting our code of conduct, because when we picked that up after not looking at it for a while, we realised that says, you know, this is the rule and this is the consequence of that rule and this will be the punishment. So that obviously needs to be rewritten. The things that were easy when we started to put things into practice in the classroom, and this is primarily through 2007, and we're obviously continuing, was getting that general agreement. We've put up these posters that just state the rights and responsibilities. It's just two sentences in each room, and partly that's for the kids, but partly that's for the teachers, so that you've always got that, you know, as a bit of a trigger when you're about to start launching into something else, that you can get back to talking the rights and responsibilities language. The things that have been less easy are just purely, it's just all those things that about change, just changing your routine, changing the habits, changing the words that automatically come out of your mouth are just very, very slow to change. But, you know, it's been a year and a half now, and I think, you know, people are changing the way that they talk. It's just that it's just harder for some than it is for others. And then the next thing of staying with the language that focuses on the behaviour and doing it when you're angry is obviously even harder. And we have had some conversations around that, and we're probably going to continue to explore that in PLTs, for teachers to actually reflect on what the actual trigger point is, where you no longer stay as the adult and all of a sudden you are the screaming banshee. So if you can identify, if we can identify it as a group, or people can identify it for themselves, maybe they can head it off a bit better. The other thing that's been an issue for our staff is to actually just mentally come to terms with the fact that this process will not work for students who are really D students, and that we need to get our heads around finding a pedagogical solution to those, to dealing with those students. And we had a number of meetings with Ramon where people would talk about what was really, really good, and then at the end they'd say, yeah, but what are you going to do for the Ds? And it just kept coming back, and we finally probably addressed that best this last meeting that we had. So things that had to be clarified along the way, that if people haven't tried this with their staff, it might be good to know that they were little things we didn't think of. Some people think that giving the 3 warnings before exiting a student or moving a student, that the same 3 warning is fine. They sort of missed the need for escalation of the warnings, that there needed to be a change in what you said, and that the kid understood the tone. And it was a little bit at home like saying, get ready for bed, get ready for bed, get ready for bed. You haven't gotten ready for bed, and going crazy. And so, the kids are actually blocking out, not even hearing the first 2 warnings because they're just waiting for the 3rd. The other thing, and we probably again only really clarified this through some conversations in our professional learning teams with Ray. We had the conversations in our professional learning teams and then had a meeting with Ray a few weeks ago, that as long as people explain to the kids and make it explicit to the kids that they're varying the warning system can be varied at any time. So if I'm running a practice exam with year 10s and I don't want any noise and I don't want any interruptions, and I can't risk that somebody is going to interrupt other students, as long as I tell them ahead of time that there will be a no tolerance policy and there will be, no warnings, and you will be moved out of the classroom if you disrupt students, that's fine. They just have to know about it ahead of time. And that's the same as if you're in a prac class and doing like really dangerous stuff with automotive bits or that they know that in that school, in that environment, that there will be one warning, or possibly not even a warning if it's a dangerous piece of equipment, and you will be out. But they just need to know. Because the prac staff were really, the home ec staff, food and technology staff, were really bothered by the idea that, if there was a kid doing silly things with a knife, that you would wait to find out how silly they were going to be.